and gentlemen, good evening. The chairperson of the advisory committee of Mining Indaba, when he gave his opening address, he said, "I love women," because my mother was a woman. And I'd like to add and say, "I love women," because my mother was a woman. But I am very afraid of women, because my mother was very strict. So when a woman speaks, I tend to want to listen and even agree to things that I know I cannot do. But because it's a woman, I just accept. I say, fine, I'll do it. And I think that is what has attracted me to AWIMA. A little bit with mine, I started getting closer with women in mining when I was still full-time at the Chamber of Mines, the then Chamber of Mines of South Africa. And I had an organization called AWIMA. They came to us, and my CEO then said, Vusi, find an office for them and give it to them. And then I think that is when the bug hit me. Because then I realized that I have to support women in whatever way or form. And some women came to visit me in my office, one by one, others representing certain companies. And the shy me and the afraid me always said yes. Always said yes. When I look at Mam Naged here, I'm sitting next to her. She came here, and this beautiful woman coming to my office, and how do I say no to such a beautiful woman? And that is just my little bug. Even now, I'm still hit by that bug. So I'm adding another dimension, that I love women because they are beautiful. Let alone that they are women, let alone that my mom was tough on me, and so I'm adding that I love them because of their beauty. But I also love them because they've got the guts of holding the sharp end of the knife and try to, do whatever they can do, holding the knife in the wrong way and not being afraid that it will cut them. So, and I think AWIMA is that kind of organization, holding the knife on the sharp end and trying to do something with it. And that is women. So I'm talking more about myself rather than a little bit of history about, about AWIMA. Georgette, where are you? It's online. If you can scream from line, I'll be happy. I got confronted with AWIMA through a gentleman called Frank Mgenyi. And at that time, Frank and I, because Mining Industry Association of Southern Africa, MIASA, is the most organized regional body and the one that is making a lot of progress. Then he said, I'm going to use this body to actually create an association of chambers of mines in Africa. And we were working and struggling to get ourselves off grind. And the first time we met was in Kampala. And when we were in Kampala, there was this thing called AWIMA. I said, what the hell is this? And I started trying to get to know, and these women were very vocal. But these women were fighting amongst themselves at the same time. And that's when I started knowing more about. So imagine, at that time, ACMA was trying to draft a constitution. And these women were sitting there watching me dancing in front of the men and trying to say, clause 1, clause 2. And yeah, more than big audience like this one, can you imagine trying to form a constitution with an audience this size? And everybody wanting to say his say of what must be in that constitution. And these women were sitting there and they were laughing at us quietly and say, these guys don't even know how to write a constitution. How can they do this? But anyway, we wrote it. And for my sins, I ended up being the scribe of that constitution. And 2 years later, we met in Ghana. Then in Ghana, we split. The women met aside, and the men met aside. And that is when they elected their first president in Georgette Barnes, if I'm not mistaken. And we treated them as associates because you cannot love a woman and not want that woman next to you. So when we cleaned out our constitution, we classified them as associates, and therefore as associates, they've got to sign the constitution. So after we're all well and good, and they have done the elections, they've elected Georgette. I asked, who's now elected? They told me it was Georgette, and I went to Georgette, and I see this woman from Ghana. I say, you must sign this constitution. She looks at me and says, what? You, me? Sign this? No, I'm not signing it. I said, no, but you must sign, you're an associate. And I really put her under pressure, and she did sign. So, although we have gone our different pathways, you still remain an associate of AWIMA. So, AWIMA didn't start smoothly, as it was a group of women, different countries, who all wanted a voice. They wanted to have a say. To a certain extent, I felt sorry for the founding president. Siswa Mwase Witbank. Kaupagame mandikubone. Kaupagame mandikubone. This lady, with Frank, traversed Africa, trying to mobilize women to form AWIMA. And when these other women started coming, they started challenging her to say, but who gave you the mandate to start this organization? And she had the toughest time from other women. But I think because there was no understanding of what this thing is about and where we are going, but it worked. Eventually, the women were decided that, no, we'll go. She was the first president, and she continued. So, after Ghana, I walked home, happy that I've done my constitution for ACMA, formally approved by the members at the AGM then. They call it the General Assembly. And then I get this call, you will write the AWIMA constitution. Oh my goodness, I was not even at their meeting. But here am I, drafting the very first. And strangely enough, I was asking myself, I'm not even a lawyer. And amongst us in that big ACMA meeting were lawyers from Ghana, lawyers from Ivory Coast, lawyers from Burkina. There were lawyer women for that matter. Not that lawyer men, lawyer women. But they still said, Mabena, you will write that constitution for us. And yeah, sitting there, me, women phobia, as I've said when I started. I now have to sit down and write a constitution for a gender that I am not. So, but it went, and I wrote it, and I gave it to them, and I'm sure that it was a start, and I'm sure that this constitution has actually evolved over time, and it has been developed into something different. There's another woman that I met for the first time in Cameroon. I don't know their names when I'm standing in front of people. But when I'm with them, I know their names very well. Pascaline. And she says, no. She says to me, I'm not Pascaline, I'm Pascaline. So I met, and she told me, because, you know, I'm a South African man who's shy of women, and she told me how to greet an African woman, and how to kiss the sides, you know. Something that me with my phobia, this is enough for me. And then she says, no, Vusi, come, let me show you. And I learned when we were in Cameroon with Pascaline. But I must say that it has been, I would like to congratulate you as women for the progress you have made. You are far ahead of ACMA, although you were creators and offspring of ACMA. The kind of projects when was it, Zenzi? In September. In September, she came and did a presentation to us in Miasa. And I can say, I never said that to you, but I can say, after that, Miasa was flabbergasted. Because of all the projects that you've been doing throughout the continent. You know, there is an element of jealousy from our side, because if, no, I've got to put it to you like that, because when we, you know, industry bodies are not rich by nature, because they depend on sponsorships and member subscription. We in Miasa, some of our members cannot afford to pay the subscription, but we're sort of forging ahead. But you, because you are women and you are beautiful, you speak to these men, you smile and they give you all the money. But not that you are hitting them with your beauty, because the industry is still very far from actually bringing women to the level at which they're supposed to be as partners in the sector. So that is why other mining companies who you approach and say, we would like to get this assistance, and they smile and they give it to you. When a Vusi with a beard, white for that matter, goes to a BHP and say, can you support Miasa? They look at you and say, but your members are rich. Why do you want money from us? And I tell them that Miasa, and I said that to Zenzi, Miasa is a poor cousin of all the rich chambers. And I myself struggle with everything. So I must say there is this little element of jealousy because of the project that you're running. And I would like to encourage you to continue. And I will be liaising in our meeting now in February, we discussed AWIMA even at length. And I will be speaking to Zenzi to say, Zenzi, we need to actually broaden this collaboration between AWIMA and Miasa to see what kind of projects we can do together and grow this sector so that it can be a gender-blind sector instead of it being a gender-conscious sector. Ladies and gentlemen, Zenzi, I hope I've done justice. Thank you very much.